Welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A. I hope you're all doing really well and staying safe wherever you are in the world. If you would like me to answer one of your questions, please leave them in the comments below. We've got a couple of questions to get through this week. So without further ado, let's get into it. And question number 1, where's my purple hat? Question number 2, what do I think of the PRS CE line of guitars? This question was actually followed up by talking about their affordable Korean guitars, which are the SE guitars. So I'm going to talk about both. The CE guitars are PRS's kind of custom style guitar, but with a bolt-on maple neck. I've played quite a few CEs and I really like them. In my opinion, the ultimate PRS guitar, if you want to get the PRS thing, is a custom 24 like this one. I just put new strings on this one, which is why I'm jamming out on it. And this, to me, ever so slightly leans towards the Gibson sort of direction. You know, the PRS being very much a Gibson Fender Chimera, whereas I think the CE is a little bit Fenderier. Does that make sense? It's going to make sense for what we're talking about anyway. You've got the maple neck, you've got a bolt-on construction. It's a little bit snappier sounding, really, really cool guitar. The SE guitars, I've played quite a few of as well. My good friend and friend of the channel, Mr. Troy Nababan, has a lovely PRS SE 245, and it's very similar to my American-made SC 245. It feels really, really good. The finish is excellent. I think they're fantastic guitars, and in their price range, I don't think there's much better out there. I also really like the Mark Holcomb SE. I played one of those the last time I was in the States, which was a year ago. Can you believe that? I certainly can't believe that. And I thought it was fantastic. It's got the same pickups as the high-end American-made model. I think the nut and the tuners are kind of the budget models, but they're easily changed. So the CEs are very cool. The SEs, I think, are pretty much unbeatable for the money. What do I think of the first Blue Murder album? I love it. I like that album so much more than Whitesnake's Slip of the Tongue album. Of course, Slip of the Tongue being the supposed follow-up to 1987, but it wasn't the same band. John Sykes went off and did Blue Murder, and to me, that Blue Murder album is the true successor to Whitesnake's excellent 1987 album, which is one of my favorite albums of all time, and probably my favorite album of the so-called hair metal album. You can check my last Q&A if you want to hear what my other favorite hair metal albums are. So yeah, I absolutely love that album. I have got it on CD. I've slammed it and listened to it so many times. John is not only an incredible guitar player, but he's one hell of a singer as well. If you haven't heard the first Blue Murder album, go out and do that. Talking about bands, Rick Beato did a video about this band from Perth, Karnivool. What do I think about them? Well, their first album, Themata, came out when I was in year 12, final year of high school. So that would have been 2005. And I remember that being the biggest thing since sliced bread. It was like Tool plus Incubus, and they had their own thing going on. And then Sound Awake came out a few years later, and that, I think, is one of the best heavy albums of all time, period. It's easily my favorite Karnivool album. It's one of my favorite albums by an Australian band ever, and I've been lucky enough to do some gigs with their rhythm section from time to time. John and Steve are some of the most amazing musicians I've ever witnessed, let alone played with in my life, and I think just John's bass sound alone is like such an incredible thing. Very few people can lay claim to a signature bass sound, but that guy can. Unbelievable. So if you haven't heard Themata or Sound Awake, go and check those albums out, because yeah, I spent a lot of time listening to those and studying them, and being from Perth, obviously it's the kind of in many ways, anyone who likes heavy music, they're the real success story coming out of Perth. And go and watch Rick's video, because Rick, like everything he does, it's excellent, and it's pretty cool to just see him get really excited about that particular song. Will I do a 2020 studio tour? If you guys would like to see that, I can do it. There's not a whole lot different from the last time I did a studio tour, but I have noticed everyone on YouTube's doing a studio tour, so maybe I should just join that party. If you want to see a studio tour, let me know in the comments below. Following on from that, this is an interesting one. Rather than my favorite things about doing YouTube, of which there are a lot of favorite things, probably the most favorite thing is I get to play guitar and talk about guitars to people who love guitars, which is pretty awesome in itself. But the most annoying things, I've got a cat hair on my nose. That's one annoying little thing about cats. Everything else about cats is great. The thing to me about doing YouTube, which is kind of at odds with a lot of how I think about music and being a musician, is you just spend so much time editing video, looking at your own face, your own image. And, for me and the band I play with, our image is that we don't have an image. We just like to play music that we like. Whereas I think that's kind of my image on YouTube as well. But I do spend so much time looking at my own face, or like, just doing the thing. So there's that. And I think the thing that is, it's a necessary evil, all these necessary evils, kind of the downsides of it. Thumbnails and their importance drives me crazy. Like, just go and look at any big YouTube channel, let alone any guitar channel, and all the thumbnails are like, you got to have your guitar here and your face here going, and some like shiny text here, and it's all like, yep. And then you drag it into Canva and you make your stupid thumbnail. I just wish that didn't have to exist, but it is a necessary evil. And I do this as well, making thumbnails. You edit a video, you edit the audio, you make it sound really good. But if your thumbnail isn't stupid enough, nobody watches the video. So yeah, thumbnails, that will probably be the number one thing. The FM3 or the Axe FX3, which one should you get and why? And is the FM3 underpowered? Is the FM3 overpowered? I think about it like this. I think about it like this. I do think about it like this. If you want the most powerful and most compact thing that you can put on a pedal board and sling over your shoulder in a gig bag and walk onto a plane like I did on our last tour, then the FM3 is absolutely perfect for that. You can run most of the things you would ever need for a live performance. If your live performances include like crazy effects chains and just about anything that your brain can dream up, the Axe FX3 is probably for you. There's like nothing else more powerful out there than it. Whereas the FM3 is half the price and it does slightly fewer things. You can't run 2 amps. There is a CPU limit that you hit a lot easier than on the Axe FX3, although you can run some pretty long effect chains. So to me, it comes down to, do you want to pay less money and have something that's super powerful, but not as powerful as the Axe FX3, but super portable, or do you want something that's in a 3-space rack that is like the ultimate, most powerful thing that is a little bit more expensive? Because of course it is, it does more stuff. I think it boils down to that. They both sound the same. That is the one important thing. So if you only need like 1 amp and a few effects, FM3 all the way. Pickup height and strings. On nearly all my guitars, I use Elixir NanoWeb 10 to 52 strings because they last a long time. That's about it. That's the main reason. I'm cheap and I like strings that last a long time. Pickup height, I don't know. I don't think about it too much. Just kind of wherever the string doesn't hit the pickup, manufacturer's spec. I don't think, do you put like a tiny little thing here on the saddle, or do you top wrap your Les Paul and all these kind of things? They're rabbit holes with real diminishing returns in my experience. A lot of the time, I just like to set my guitars up so they're comfy to play. And then, in my case, I'm using an Axe FX. You might be using an amp with pedals. You might be using a rack. Do all the tone shaping on those things because we've got incredibly powerful tone shaping tools at our disposal. It's not the 70s anymore where you had like 3 amps to choose from, 1 replacement pickup, and if you wanted a whammy bar that stayed in tune, you had to wait for Floyd Rose to invent it. So yeah, just stock, in the words of Lars Ulrich. It's stock. It doesn't really matter that much, in my opinion, as long as you like the way it sounds and as long as it's comfortable to play. Alrighty. Talking about the studio tour stuff earlier and talking about the FM3 stuff, the advantage of running the digital out, or the SPDIF, as I like to call it, out, and why do I do it, and why do I do it with my UAD and the FM3? The FM3 is an audio interface. There's absolutely no problem with it, but I do a lot of this where I have to talk into a microphone. I need a microphone preamp. The Apollo has great mic preamps, so I use those, and I use the digital out of the FM3 to the digital out of the Apollo. I use a cheap little converter to do that you can get from Amazon, and the reasoning is I save a stage of digital to analog conversion and another stage of analog to digital conversion when I'm running my rig. And the big kicker is I can run one cable and have stereo. So if I put some stereo effects on, it works. And it's in stereo and I'm running one cable. So that is the big advantage for SPDIF, in my opinion. We're getting near the end of these questions. I think I've pretty much hit everything that I wanted to hit. Somebody asked about the Rocktron units and can I do a demo of the Piranha and the IntelliFX. I am waiting to do another preamp shootout, but I want to have another preamp, which means I have another preamp on the way. And if you guys can guess what that preamp is, then let me know in the comments, as always, because hopefully it will be here next week and I can dust off all the preamps like the ADA and the Soldano clone and the JMP1. By the way, Michael Nielsen's JMP1 video, awesome. Go and watch it. And this other thing and the Triaxis, and I'll do another preamp shootout for 2020 because I know you guys love that stuff and I love rack preamps as well. Alrighty, that has been the Q&A for this week. If you got questions for next week, get them in the comments below. If you want to see a studio tour, let me know. If you want to try and guess what rack preamp I have on the way, also let me know. Until next week, you guys stay excellent wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, wash your hands, keep your beard clean and all those kind of things. And I'll see you next week.